If you feel guilty or if you feel like ashamed when you think about your sexuality, when you have sex, or when you masturbate, the first thing to understand is that you're not alone. There's a lot of people who have feelings like this, and that's because so many of these feelings are ingrained in us through our communities, through how we're raised, our cultural and religious groups, right? So there's just a lot of shame around sex, especially within religious groups, but not only within religious groups. So the first thing to understand is that this is simply because it was ingrained in you subconsciously from an early age, most likely. And the more you can educate yourself, you can start to bring in new messages into your mind and eventually into your subconscious. You know, people really struggle because you may think in your mind consciously that sex should be healthy and good and it's positive, normal part of life. But emotionally, you may feel differently. And so that's where you get this conflict, right, between what you think and what you feel. And it can be very hard to change what you feel because your subconscious is, if you could think yourself into a new behavior, it would be much easier, right? You could watch a TED Talk and you could be like, yep, I agree. I am now a different person. That would be wonderful. But that is not how it works because our behavior originates, in our emotions. That's what drives our behavior. And so you have to really work within your emotions in order to create a shift. And there's no one way to do that. And there's no one path or simple way. Education is one way. So reading books that are sex positive about sexuality, following other creators who talk about their experiences breaking free from that kind of thinking. These all are messages coming in, and eventually repetition is one of the ways to rewrite your subconscious mind. So eventually, as you are taking in more positive messages about sex, that begins to create a shift over time. Communication is really important. Talking to someone, talking to friends, talking to your partner, finding a therapist, really reaching out and not feeling like you're alone or isolated. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it because of this shame. They feel ashamed to talk about it, right? They feel like they're going to be judged. But understand there are so many people who are willing to listen, who will not judge you, and who will understand and have empathy for you. And there are therapists out there who are sex positive. You can specifically look for that. And nothing you're going to say, nothing is going to shock them. And so reaching out to others and really just starting to open up and communicate is a big way to break free of those old ideas. Connecting with your friends. If you have other friends, talk to them about how they feel about it. Do you have other friends who have maybe had similar changes in their life? Talk to them about what they went through and what they thought. Mindfulness, I guess, or self-compassion is important. Understanding that you're not perfect and it's a winding road. The path towards change is winding, and that's okay. And again, looking for a community. So something that's really important is to create a shift, right? Often people feel, especially let's say if you come from a religious background that is highly shameful about sex, then looking for communities, and you can find them online if you can't find them in your day-to-day life. Communities for people who have maybe left their religious communities or are seeking to reconcile their beliefs with their sexuality in a more positive way. That doesn't mean they have to leave their religion, right? But seeking out those communities and listening to their stories and connecting with them is going to really help. And obviously, you have to ask yourself lots of questions too about, things you were taught, and asking yourself, do I agree with them still? And is that the way I want to live my life? And then really, doing work on really writing down or thinking clearly about what you want. How do you want to live life? Even if you don't feel it yet, what are the tenets that you want to live by? And then lastly, setting boundaries. It's really important to set boundaries with family, community members who may still hold views and express views to you that will contribute to feeling guilty and bad about yourself. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's okay to stop conversations. It is okay. You are allowed to protect yourself. You're allowed to protect your emotional and mental well-being. You're allowed to think for yourself. And sometimes that means limiting your exposure to harmful conversations and ideologies. And that's not easy. That's another reason to look for community so that you don't feel alone. And just understand that everyone's journey is different. It's very personal. It takes time. And reconciling your sexuality with your background is complicated. So just give yourself some space and know that what you're doing is a good thing, because your sexuality is a part of you. It is a normal and healthy part of life. It's the reason we're all here, and it is okay.